Well, that was a bit of an eye-opener, and I hope everyone's kind of going to be watching out now. 760 new road schemes. Presumably, they'll want to start a whole bunch of them. I don't know if anyone out there has got any information on stuff that's happening in their area, but it'd be good to find out. And have you got any more news on your bits around you, Bob?
Well, I'll tell you, man. Like I said, the bit I mentioned already regarding us being a bit late, really. I mean, it's never too late. You know, we should never give up on these things. You know, it's never too late. Even if you just do a few, we end up with a few square metres, you know. Well, it's a great victory. But yeah, jumping straight ahead, really, because you can take years to wait for the so-called authority to make any kind of decision, and I think we'd have to be stupid to think that they're going to actually take us into account. You know, they're not really interested in that side of it. It's big business, isn't it, now?
Yeah, we're just the slaves that fund it.
What I have heard locally, I'll tell you about the allotments first before I get on to another little bit of local stuff I've mentioned already on a previous show. But today, about half a dozen of us, that's all there was. We turned up, we got up there on the site, spades, shovels, and we started to turn over the beds that we'd already reclaimed. We've taken about, say 300 square metres or something, which we actually used we cultivated and grew stuff in last year. Now now nature starts to take back over, and I must admit, all the time I was doing it, I was thinking, badger, permaculture, we've got to get some of that going on there. We've got to. Why not? Why not, indeed? So we turned over, try and get it into metres now, for people listening. Well, we've turned over, let's say, 10, maybe 15, 20 square metres, and we've gathered perhaps 3 or 4 square, more like 4 square metres, probably more like 5 actually, of artichokes. And I've got a big bucket of artichokes, and, it was really good, man. It was just really good to get out there, start turning over the soil. We planted, 3 or 4 square metres of shallots. So there'll be shallots. They're a bit late going in now, really. Excuse me. Well, it was really good, man. Really good to get there, to actually turn that soil over. And afterwards, a few more of us gathered together and a bit of a chat about where we're going with it and what we're doing. And we're going to have to actually, I think, to be realistic, set up the treasurer and the secretary and all that association kind of red tape, absolutely nonsense, just to appease the local council. And we've already done this with the National Allotment Association, where really, if they would have done what thousands of their members, if not millions of members, I really don't know what their membership is, if they would have done what their members are paying them to do, then we would not be actually fighting our local council to try and get this recognition of common land. And that's where a lot of people don't kind of get where we're going with this. We're trying to take back, we have already taken back a piece of land for a common. And by that, it means for common use. Some people are a bit scared of this. They think that like hundreds of travellers are going to turn up and move on and so forth. Well, no, look, 1 or 2 may need to pull over and park for a few days and move along. I ain't got a problem with that. I haven't got to be. It's one of the social backbones of Britain, and if you go back and have a look at the old tribes that make us all up today, who we are, a big chunk of them were the caravans, the ancient caravan people that did all the trade, the original trade. So yeah, it's part of our culture, and they seem to find any culture which is outside their so-called mainstream culture and persecute it. Now to a fact where you've got the green people trying to save certain areas, and they persecute them just because, they're trying to have a green culture. We won't get into the marijuana or the cannabis culture that they've attacked repetitively over and over again with absolute rubbish. So I suppose, really, what I'm getting at is as soon as we form into a group to try and better ourselves, better our society, under the law, no loss, no harm, no deception, no breach of thy peace. A lot of people are saying common law. Forget that. Law is common to all. The issue is at the moment that law, as Badger pointed out, as we've pointed out, and many more of you all over the country, in fact, all over the globe, all over our planet, wherever you may be, the law is no longer common. What applies to you does not apply to the next man. If your social standing or your state, your position, or where you live, or the size of your house, or how good your job is, then the law is manipulated to suit the hierarchy, not you. And law needs to be common. If it isn't common, it isn't law. It isn't law. You can't have one for one, not for another. What are we going to have? A government that can murder people?
We got one.
My point exactly, Bob. So yeah, we've got to wise up, brothers and sisters, and we're not going to do that by blaming the council. We're not going to do it by blaming the church. We're not going to do it by blaming. Who can we blame? Can we blame Dom? We'll blame Dom because loads of people blame Dom. Let's blame Dom. We'll blame Bob. Both of us. It's not going to happen. That's not going to make any difference at all. We need to move along together without this looking for retribution in our future. So give them a way out.
At the end of the day, it's the fault of each and every one of us. So the blame lies
totally agree with
each and every one of us.
I totally agree with you, man. I mean, you're touching on taking personal responsibility again, taking responsibility for our actions. Now, look, if you've been a bit naughty and you know you haven't been doing it right, it's okay. Right? What we're talking about is taking responsibility for your actions to the best of your ability from this moment on. From this moment on. Okay, yeah, you're going to stumble, you're going to make mistakes, you are going to create loss, you are going to create harm, you know, we are going to be deceived. In fact, most of us deceive one another on a daily basis. We've lived in deceit for that long, it's become our nature. So we've got a way to go. But each one of us, as you say, Bob, you know, take that bit, just take it for yourself and begin today. Begin it today. Well, if we do this, it doesn't have to be, and I don't like the word transition, I really don't, but I'm going to use it. It doesn't have to be a difficult transition. If I've learned anything from history, a blood revolution does not get us anywhere. To fight or to go into conflict doesn't solve anything. We can't beat problem better. You can't bully a situation into a better position. It can't be done. We've got to learn that we can actually learn without the disaster. Let's not wait for your friend or your relative or your brother or your sister. Don't wait for them to get in the great big shit pile before you help them out. It's alright to help people out, and it's alright to work together. It really is. You know, we don't have to have a great big bag of money. We don't need to have it. We just need to change our social way of thinking, our social way of being. We're not going to lose the internet. We're not going to lose power. We're not going to, you know, it's simple. It really is that simple to do. If we're willing to do it. And that you can't blame anyone for. Anyone. But please don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself. Whatever position you're in, whether you're right into the truth movement, whether you're a 9/11 truther, right, ranting about architects for engineers, you know, nanothermite, and you're still lost within the 9/11 psyops, okay? Then just stop. Just stop. You don't need to do that. It's never gonna benefit anyone. If you did find out now exactly who did it, it will not bring the 3,000 people back, and it won't bring back the thousands of people that died as a consequence, millions that have died as a consequence. No good at all. It's a psyops. Simple. Anyone who gets out of it, I'll pat you on the back, however you've done it. However you've done it. So.
Well, interestingly, today is the 10th anniversary of the Not in My Name war marches or anti-war marches that took place in London. And I've been thinking about that quite a lot, and it seems to me that a number of people that were on those marches just went home and stuck their heads back in the sand, because it just carries on and on and on.
Exactly, Bob. I mean, it's been coined, it's been said lots of times now, repeatedly, having the same action and expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity.
Yeah. I think what it is people don't realise what protest really means. It's, if you divide the word up, it's pro, which means you agree with it, but you're testing it. At the end of the day, what you're saying is, hey, look, it's all right, I just don't like it, but I know it's going to happen. And I think Boris used a really good word while he was talking, and that is resistance. And that's what we really need, is the way the electric works, for instance. When you put resistance in the cable, it diminishes the power. And if we can use that analogy to what we're doing and resist, don't protest, resist. And that way the power will be diminished. I don't know how you feel about descriptive words like that, but I feel that they travel a long way with good intention.
Good intention. Look, I like it. I hadn't thought of it like that before, Bob. I do like it. Persistence, I will add to your resistance.
Yes.
If that's all right, brother. We're persistent resistance. It's good. Yeah, I like it. It does. It gives it's a little buzz in it. It gives you. But you don't forget that. Let's get to that. What you mentioned that you call intention. What is our intention? You know, behind the thoughts, behind the words. You know, where before we get into any kind of action, what is our intention?
That's exactly it, and it doesn't matter really what the words are. It's the spell that is put in those words, which is created in your own mind, and those words will follow that pathway.
Oh, you said spell. You said words, and you said spell, and you said, oh, what was it? You said intention. Intention and the word and the spelling of that word. And then how do we cast that word? Do you know, something that came to me a while ago? Do you know, out of all the species on Earth, we're the only one that can change our tone with the outward breath. All the others have to change from an inward to an outward breath. I don't know if it's the same with birds, actually, but with mammals, definitely. Because our vocal cords are no longer tied into our muscles on the chest, because we stand upright. We stand upright. So we can do that. So we can talk. So we can change the tone of our word as we're speaking to one another. Got me thinking, you know that. You've got me thinking. Anyway, we're coming up to the hour. If you've got any idea what we're talking about, because I'm having a bit of a, hey, what's going on here then? Why is these people casting these words in these letters at us? And why are we actually giving over our power and our authority to them? You got any ideas? Oh, you know, you want to pose a question. I'm not saying we can answer it. Somebody out there may be able to. Or you just want to come up here and you know, put over your point. Let people know about it. This is what the Darkcity is all about. Or on the other hand, you might just want to have a rant. Just have a rant. Get it off your chest. Or even a ramble. A good ramble often reveals a truth or two, I'll tell you. So we'll play you a tune. We're right on the hour, which is good for me. And we'll be back very, very shortly. Join us. Skype Bobsbackyard or 0161 298 0298. Join us after the break.
Please, Mr. Music Man, we are important teachers. Please, Mr. Music Man, we are important teachers. Jaja gives us faith to salute the world with thanks. Oh, how I have learned not to be scared, but to give thanks. Oh, how I have seen beyond closed eyes. Oh, how I have felt, oh, Jah, the music, music. Please, Mr. Music Man, we are important teachers of Jah land. Let's not fuss, let's not fight. Fighting for flesh, silver or gold. With all the money I have, all the pleasure it share, I'm still aware of Jah love, aware of Jah love. With all the money I have, all the pleasure it share, I'm still aware of Jah love, aware of Jah love. Yes, I'm still aware of Jah love. Please, Mr. Music Man, we are important teachers. Please, Mr. Music Man, we are important teachers. Jaja gives us faith to salute the world with thanks. Jaja gives us faith to salute the world with thanks. Please, Mr. Music Man, we are important teachers. 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 Please, Mr. Music Man, we are important teachers.
Oh, welcome back to Darkcity Radio. Excuse me, I was miles away there for 1 second. Right, where are we? Got to press that one. Right, where are we? We're in the second half, and where is everybody? We called for the Darkcity crew, and there's just us three sat here, so we'll have to create a little trinity. Oh, and as I said that, I've just got a request to contact. Right then, so if you are out there and you do want to join us, please do so. If that is whoever's just messaged me, if that's you do want to join us, just give us a text message and I'll bring you into the call. And my mind went blank as it goes. Right, chat, that's what I was doing, clicking at chat. Right, who've we got in chat with us tonight? Prajna's out there again. Prajna's been doing okay. I'm sure I thought he might have something to add. We spoke a little bit about the allotment action, and what I was going to do is, oh, he's here, look at that, he's there. Right, I'll bring you in now. What I was going to do is mention a little bit about my local market ground, my indoor market. The outdoor market's a good place, don't get me wrong. We have a brilliant produce market at the end of every month, and that's the last Sunday of every month. But what's happening with these market traders? It burnt down the market. I'll give you a bit of background. The market burnt down some time ago, and they paid their insurance to the council. Now, I'm not going to give you all the bits and pieces. I don't know them all. I'm just going to give you the rough story. But do your research, please do. And then get on and tell us about this stuff, because there's a lot to what's going on in this little town. So, market burns down. Market traders paying for cover, but they're not actually covered for a total loss. So, they don't get paid out. Market traders reinvest quite a lot of money, and you know, if your business, they're out of business, the businesses have gone, the jobs have gone instantly. In perhaps quite a difficult time, you know, economically, if you go to the economical thing being real, of course. I think a lot of that is orchestrated. So yeah, they've been out of work. Anyway, the market's rebuilt. They've given them a temporary market, which to be honest was rubbish. And they hardly advertised it was out of the way, but you know, they made out like they were doing them all a big favour while they were continuing to pay rents into the coffers of the council. They rebuild the council so-called, they rebuild the market ground eventually. In the meantime, they demolished an entire, it used to be Norweb building, the old Norweb building. They demolished it, built an IKEA, demolished it, got planning permission, demolished it, built an entire, the first inner city IKEA. And I often said we should have got the people who run IKEA to sort the market ground out. Because, you know, it took them a ridiculous amount of time to do this. More and more the businesses fell away, of course. But anyway, some of those businesses survived. There's some new ones in there. And one of my little favourites is Ashton Coffee. Simple place. It's coffee which is roasted locally in the north of Manchester. I can't remember where. It's not too far away. Within days, you know, or even that morning, normally it's roasted, and he collects it, and you can buy, this is the best bit, double shot latte. I mean, that's 4 shots of espresso in a latte, and it's beautiful. Real stuff. For £1. For £1. It's ridiculous. That to me is providing me with a service. I can get local fruit in there. Well, not so local fruit, but you know, it is there. Local trader, he'd be coming from Smithfield Market. Okay, I know some of it's travelled around. But the local traders supplying to me, just as it's gone on for years. I mean, on the produce market, yeah, you're getting exactly that. You're actually getting produce which is local to this area. And if you know anything about fruit and vegetables and the enzymes contained within them and your health system triggering your immune system, this is vital to a healthy life. What they're doing is now, just try and put yourself in the position of someone. Your business, right, you pay the insurance, right, it gets burnt down, nothing to do with you, right, you find out that the council's not done it proper, right, it costs you tens, hundreds of thousands of people, some of them have lost in there, the butchers especially, you know, bang, suddenly they've nowhere to trade. They've invested a lot of money. And the council comes along now and says, you can only have a 3-month contract. Now your business can be shut down by them in 3 months. Now this hasn't happened yet, okay? This hasn't happened. We're telling you about it before it happens. If you are in the area, at least nothing else, go down and ask the traders. Don't take my word for it. Go down and ask them. They haven't done it yet. And people are going to need help. Again, just like earlier, you know, we're endeavouring to get you there before it happens. Let's get this information to people before, not after. Afterwards, we can't do anything about it. You know, to me, it's just like, how dare you? How dare you? So I'm here, I'm in the market this week. There's a guy sat there having a coffee. There's a lady there, and she's quite, you know, an older lady, but she's pretty on the ball regarding the council and No point having a government over another government. What are these people actually doing for us? And she's not ranting or anything, but she's an elderly and she's quite annoyed at the situation. And I would have to agree with her, you know. It's a quite annoying situation to be in. And we spoke for a while. Mentioned about bitcoins, alternatives, about the Ashton Allotment Group. She'd actually heard of it. And there was a man sat there. And I said that the market traders shouldn't have to pay any rent at all. All the traders inside that market ground should trade there free. And that the council's responsibility would be to upkeep the building so they could trade there, bringing me a service that I require to my local area. And this man thought I was absolutely nuts. He thought I was crazy. That can't possibly work. So hang on a minute. Who owns, this is how I responded, who owns this building? Who does it belong to? Who paid for the land? Who paid for every bit of it? The council, he responded. The council, I said. Well, who paid the council? Well, the poll tax and the government. Who paid the government? Well, the taxpayers. Right. So we buy his house. And now we're charging him to serve you a coffee for £1. Where else can you get a coffee for £1? He should be there, I should be free. And that's the issue. We've got people being served and the council charging them for doing it. Well, what are they doing? The councillor didn't serve me a coffee. The councillor don't come down there and paint the beams or sweep up the floor. He doesn't do that. What do they do? What actually do they do? And I can't find anyone to give me a reasonable answer. The best they've come up with so far is they go and ask professionals for advice. They decide which is the best advice from the professionals, and then they tell us what the best thing is to do. Right, well, can I just point something out? Because I think that may be the case. And if that is the case, can I just point out that we don't need the middleman. We don't need the middleman. We don't actually need... We can just go straight to the professional. Hello, experts. You won't be able to pick it up.
The worst thing is they often ignore the advice from the professionals and do what the hell it is they want to do regardless, and that's kind of what gets most people's goat, I think.
Now, yes, I would actually start to look at the background of the professionals and the background of the people that so-called employ them by the council. And you don't have to even scratch the surface. You don't. It's not hidden. Oh yes. Well, we're all having these new bulbs, light bulbs. This is a true story, not an English story actually. A Maltese story on the island that goes up. New light bulbs. They're putting new energy-saving light bulbs in the street, which are green. No, they're not. They're not green. They take loads of. You can't. It's just not a good idea. There's much better ways of doing it. If you really want it to be green, you'd be putting LED lighting in, not the old fluorescent type bulbs making out. It's better. So, yes, and it actually turned out right beneath the surface that the minister had actually done it. His son had the sole rights for importing the bulbs. Oh, you see, you don't even have to look too far. You don't. The so-called professionals, we'll get a professional in to do what? Build a hill. Well, who's the professional who tells you that golf balls have to be fired uphill next to a motorway? Where are they getting this advice from? It's not very good advice, you're quite right. And even if they get good advice, Bob, they're not actually following the advice. So you think my analogy has crashed there? Because either way, they ain't doing what is just simply obvious. It's simply obvious. To me it is. I've done a little bit with the figures. How would we solve the problem? How do we solve the problem of people not having enough money to pay their electric and the gas bills? How do we solve the problem of elderly people sitting in houses over this cold spell where they're being charged double? Oh, well, we'll pay them back in a rebate. These people are scared. How do we solve these issues? How do we become instantly, overnight, right, have enough wealth in the country to be able to feed every man, woman and child and house them all? We can all actually retire now, giving up all that working time. You don't have to retire, of course, but you can all retire now on a decent income. Every single person in the country could retire now. And then when we all get to the age of 65, everybody could just start doing a few jobs and getting things sorted out. How could we afford to do that? Stop bombing innocent women and children. Lay down your weapons and your arms. We will not make it better by blowing it up. Now, am I crazy, or is that just too bloody obvious?
I'm with you on that one, mate. Definitely. It just seems ridiculous to try and create peace by being a terrorist. And from my point of view, all these actions in Iraq and Afghanistan and everywhere else is exactly that. It's terrorism.
Excuse me, Bob, I went on a rant there, didn't I? And I forgot to bring Prajna and what's it. Susan's just joined us all the way from Australia. I don't know if she knows she was coming in live or she was just saying hello. Welcome to you, Susan.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to Darkcity Radio. I hope you're alright. Can I tell a funny story about dyeing your hair? I'll get there later. It's quite a funny story actually, I heard yesterday. So yeah, I'm now bringing Prajna and Charley in. I don't know if they are still there. So yeah, I was just having a rant, Susan, I don't know if you heard it, regarding how we solve all the world's problems. Or at least the problems of the United Kingdom, and you kind of came in from being from another land and caught me completely in geographical judgment of how we would solve the problems here in England. Well, of course, I must apologise to people outside the UK who are listening live now, or maybe listening to the podcast later. Of course, I'm sure that would apply to you as well. You know, the amount of money we've actually spent on the war on terror. Now.
Oh, yes. And good morning. I sort of was a bit on the hop then. Good morning, everybody. Geographical judgment. I'm listening. I did miss it.
Yes, well, I was going on about how we would solve the problem in the UK. How we could actually all retire now. And actually leave plenty of jobs for everybody to do. We'd have zero unemployment instantly, and we could all live our lives in happiness with enough wealth for us all to have a nice car and a nice house, and yes, no problems at all. Simply by ending war. Just end it. I don't know, a lot of people are like, oh, come on, that's unrealistic. What's unrealistic? We've got an armed forces, right, that are capable of building bridges, right, between people and across roads and rivers and great. You know, we've got people in this country we know where to live. Homeless people. You know, they're going on about, oh, we've got transport problems and it's costing so much money to do all, use the forces, use the services to serve the people. God, am I going off my head? Is that ridiculous? Is that ridiculous that we should ask that the government, right, make sure that the basic necessities of life, water, power, okay, all right, internet, maybe not internet, but, you know, basic necessities of life, housing, shelter, food, water, clothing, so forth, are provided to us from the best possible sources without ripping us off. Okay? Not sell it to a private corporation in some far off distant land and charge us 65% tax indirect upon that. Now, to me, they're not doing the job. Right, well, what's the problem? Don't use them. They're not doing the job. You know, if you went to a car mechanic and you said, yeah, mate, I've got a nasty knock on the back end of this. All right, I'll get in. Drive me around the block. So the mechanic jumps in your car with you. You drive round the block in your car, and there it is. Dum, 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 dum. You pull back in the garage. The mechanic says, can solve that for you in a couple of minutes, mate. Hang on a minute. And he disappears. You hear a bit of tapping, bit of banging, bit of knocking, and he reappears out of this room. Comes to your arm, comes to your car, opens your door, says, excuse me, sir, could you just turn your head to the right? and you turn your head to the right, and he puts a piece of cotton wool in either ear. Both your ears, he puts a piece of cotton wool in. He said, try that, sir, see if you can still hear it. Would you pay him? Would you pay him? Would you get here's 50 quid? Would you pay him to fix your car because he's not done anything about it? They haven't done anything. Why are we paying him? Why? I'm bewildered. I've been bewildered about these things for a while. Why don't the services serve us? Because they actually sign up. You ask all of them. Even these 99% of the police force, 99% of the ambulance service, the fire service, and the army. The big odds in the army, the navy, and the air force, they actually joined up because they thought they were serving their country. That's what they thought they were doing. All right, then. We can't go and blame them, but why can't we use them to serve the country?
Don't take an oath to the Queen.
They take an oath? Well, I'll forgive them for taking an oath to the Queen. You see what I mean? Yeah, they made a few mistakes. You know, they may have made a few mistakes. They have. They've made vows, you know, they've used and casting of words to put themselves into a position where they feel they've got no authority. Well, that's all right. I give you authority. I give you authority. If you were waiting for somebody to give you authority, then there you go. You've got authority to have your own authority. How's that? Is that okay? So, yeah, we could use the services to serve the country. Now, hang on a minute. Would that work elsewhere? I wonder if the people of, let's say, the Balloony Boogie tribe in the far distant galaxy of Fardon would actually... yeah, I reckon that would work anywhere. It'd work anywhere, wouldn't it? Do you know, let's use the people who are in service to actually serve. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to serve to the best of my ability. I think that's what we're all trying to do. All right. I know it can be a bit difficult to see when you're looking at a policeman who's trying to split your head open with a riot baton because he thinks he's got authority over you. I know that. I've been there. And when I was there and it was happening, I couldn't see that. It's difficult. Okay?
I'm not here. I'm still in the far distant galaxy of Fardon.
I was really, you like Fardon? That's where, I'll tell you about Fardon, because I am getting a bit serious, but I'll tell you about Fardon. Fardon is where the heavy mass object comes from. You know the one that has appeared? Yeah. But there's something more terrifying. There is something out there in the darkness from Fardon. The space-eating goat.
Oh.
This thing devours planets in a single...
Bah.
Meh.
Meh.
Yeah, the goats go meh.
Well, don't go bah, that's sheep. No. Yeah, it's like meh, isn't it? Meh.
Well, if you can tell us what a goat does and what a sheep doesn't do, please ring in Darkcity Radio. And you can do that by Skyping Bob at Bob's Backyard. One word. Bob's Backyard. Okay? And that'll bring you in. Ish. It's kind of a recent thing. Who's that? Prajna. I think I've got you in now, Prajna. What else is the other way? Yes, you can also telephone us on one of those things called a landline. And if you're on a package, it's free. You know, if you're on BE, then you can do it for free after 7 o'clock at night. How about that? So that number is 0161 298 0298. Hey, I like it. 298 0298. If you're outside the UK, right, it's 0044 161 298 0298. And that'll put you through on the line. Well, at least it should do. It has worked previously. But hey, technology. Wonderful, isn't it? Wonderful. Right. So, anybody else want to say something? Because I've been rambling my head off for long enough. I've solved the world's events. All right, we've got world peace. Everybody's retired. You can do whatever you want. You can club together, sell your cars and buy an helicopter. It's all cool. We've got alternative technologies all come to the forefront. And it's only 8:30.
Free internet, Bob. It's got to be a human right.
No,
communication is a human right, and the other thing is all this intellectual copyright bollocks is bollocks too. Yeah. All knowledge is humanity's knowledge. This idea of packaging it up and saying, "Oh, well, you can have it if you slave for me." Well,
in fact, I told you all about this, babe. Don't be taking credit. Only kidding.
She's learning. But you agree with me, don't you, Bob?
No, I think, yeah, we definitely do.
This is Dan. Dan's with me here. Dan, the Linux man. So.
Dan. Right,
it's me, yeah. And, there's already at least one European nation that has deemed internet access as a human right. It's either Germany or the Netherlands. I think it's Germany. So they demand their porn with such a vigour that it has become a human right. And damn right too, but no, it's like, but yeah, sadly that is the truth of the matter is that most of the internet's brought, most internet traffic is took up by porn, sadly enough, but maybe there's hope for people to learn, and that is, but internet access is a human right, but what is encouraging is in, like, say, the internet, which has been largely powered by Linux now, is that it kind of proves that, like, an open sort of system where people contribute to it what they want on a voluntary basis, stuff does get done and it does work, and it's powering our friggin' internet. And it's also open and transparent. And that's how our government should be. You should be able to see exactly where every penny is spent. All our tax money, that's our money.
How much have we spent on war?
I'm not
They won't tell us. They won't actually tell us.
And we'd vote, no, we don't want to spend it on war. We want to spend it on good stuff that benefits us.
Prajna, go on, man.
Do you remember, Dan, back in the bad old days before all this user-supported software and so on arrived, and we all thought, yeah, how is that going to work? Because I was actually working in IT at the time, and I was very excited about all this kind of stuff, but we had freeware and shareware. And shareware you could kind of work out, but it's just absolutely amazing the way that this community on the internet is built up, so that now out of it even comes things like Anonymous.
Yeah.
Cool.
Open source everything.
I'd just like to let you know that actually Anonymous existed prior to the internet. I don't know if you might not be aware of this, but in the old days, you used to have sharing clubs, which became copying clubs, and there used to be such things like the Jolly Rogers cookbook and all the things your mum didn't want you to know before tea, and so forth. and these were, all sorts of things.
The telephone hacking.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then we had bulletin boards as well.
Yeah.
I kept a bulletin board that phoned up about 3 other bulletin boards, and they phoned up several other bulletin boards, and eventually we had this big community all over the planet, all connected by modem, which was rather good.
It is, isn't it? I mean, internet, what the internet can do and how it can bring you together. Anyway, we've been joined by another caller. Hello, caller, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello.
Hello there.
This Chinese person?
Hello there, Charlie. Are you there?
Is that Dan?
It's me. How are you doing, mate? How's it going?
Hi.
Hello.
And we've got Stacey.
Hello, everyone.
It's Charlie and Stacey. Excellent.
Stacey, hey, Stacey, it's Kaz.
Kaz,
It's
you
Kaz
okay?
now.
I need to instantly. So.
Just one at once if you can, because it's really, it's brilliant. Thanks for ringing in, Stacey and Charlie. Stacey's been helping us out phenomenally, and thanks for sharing her, man, with us up here at Ashton, because she has helped out. Absolutely, we wouldn't be where we are without her. Been a little angel to us up here, and so big, nice one, Stacey.
Thank you for letting me on the allotment. So even though you don't own it, I know I don't need your permission. It's everyone's land, but thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Like I say, we kind of got it rolling out without people's support and without their help. Then, the idea remains, but it's no good without any physical action. We've got to make these ideas real. So yeah, you've definitely helped make it. Real.
No worries. Everyone should be. Well, not should be. There's no should be's, but I mean, it'd be nice with the weather getting better as well. because I found it therapeutic, let alone like it's a necessity to do these things. But getting my hands dirty today, I've still got the mud after washing my hands about 1,000,000 times under my fingernails. So, yeah, I think it's beneficial as therapy as well, like catharsis, to get all of your your negative tension out, kind of ground it by digging and doing things. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It is good, isn't it? I really enjoyed turning over the soil today. I kind of got stuck in for about an hour before you arrived, and I did. It is, like you say, the only word is therapeutic. It really is. Did you want to add something there, Susan?
The boil the toilet.
Oh, yes, I was going to say, absolutely. I was just saying, yes, Stacey, that's right. It is beneficial, and yes, definitely, to the soil, to us, to everything, really, to your sense of well-being, because that's who we are. And hi, Stacey, I loved your sign. You're brilliant. Love you. Hi, Charley.
I remember you are. We've met before, haven't we?
Oh yes, we have.
Only voices, so I can't see faces, but I remember. Hi.
I know. Mum's the word.
Yeah, we met at the J23 Glovathon in Manchester.
Yes, and even before then as well. I think we've met before.
It was the week.
Either way, we're meeting again.
Yeah. It's good stuff. But we all kind of came together around the Manchester kind of love theme and activism on the street, I suppose. That kind of what brought us all together. And it is good stuff.
May I add, that was brilliant, that love-a-thon. That really does, just like Ashton Allotment, it raises awareness and it brings us together. You know, we are a community. So, that love-a-thon's great. My mind's ticking. How can I get it started here?
I had, like I say, one of my best memories was actually dancing up the middle of the street after that. The police lady, the police constable sergeant, I think she was, or even inspector who was in charge of the day, give us authority. Literally, it was really funny. Well, she didn't give us authority because we were already doing it, but give us the okay to carry on doing what we were doing. At that, I decided that walking up the pavement was no longer any good, so I marched up the middle of the street, threatening the police. Either they smile or they get hugged. It was a great experience, I must admit. And to actually have the police kind of say, you carry on, that's wonderful. Now, I don't know if it might be a bit sexist to say if some of the male police officers and male hierarchy might not have grasped it, but that police, I'm going to put a police woman, forget her hierarchy, she definitely got what we were on about, and she did listen. And I've actually, I don't know if I should say it, but I've heard from that person since anyway, which is really cool, really cool. So get out there, do it, do your own thing, do your own thing. Some of us are masters at that. Some of us, it's a terrifying experience. I know we've had people on the radio, we've spoken to them in chat, on Skype, they've been fine, we've all kind of had a laugh, and we bring in the Darkcity radio into this silence. So it's your radio, that's what it's all about. I'm a bit overwhelmed at the moment, but I'm easily overwhelmed.
I know,
It's an absolutely great day today.
It's because I know there's so many people that were in the conversation. I feel like I don't want to just jump in and start rambling, going on, so giving other people like an opportunity to talk and whatnot. Is everyone still here and stuff?
We're waiting for you, Brad.
Yeah, we want you to do your bit, Stacey.
My bit. Sorry, I've been a bit quiet because I've been just making a bit of something smoke. So, but now, my bit, I suppose, is going on a bit about, not the allotments in a sense, but just in a general sense, just getting community projects up and running that are more not off-grid completely at first. I know that's a bit ambitious, but that way inclined, that are on land that we can claim as being common. So the allotments being the perfect example of this. I just think that this summer particularly, I mean, we've all survived 2012 and we're all still in the third dimension, apparently. So we might as well crack on and do something community-based and, you know, earth-based, because as good as it is going out to the public, I don't know if it's like 3 years now, 4 years, it's gone so quick, I don't know, going out, doing all these actions, and it gives you this great sense of, you know, connecting with people as well you normally wouldn't, and seeing how people respond to information. But it still feels like, as much as it's good to keep telling everyone about this, like I do all the time, like immediate family, friends, everyone that I get crack up a conversation with, I'll go on about things that I feel are important, that affect everyone. But I think now I feel I need to do something, because I'm becoming agitated with the shift in perception not happening as quickly as I'd like it. So I feel like I need to do something like we have been doing today, say digging, that grounds me and that gets me back speaking to people again. And as much as it's great to, you know, spend time with our family and our friends immediately, it's good to reach out to people that want to do the same sort of thing on a regular basis. And it's not being elitist, even though it is in a sense, because we're all like-minded, so we're sticking to like-minded people. But we've got to do things as well, in a sense, that's creating that something that's not defined by the thing that we're fighting. You know what I mean? So we're fighting ignorance. So we're going out there to inform people. You know what I mean? So it's being defined by their ignorance yet again, because we're expending a lot of energy on informing people's ignorance when that's their duty, it's their responsibility as sovereign people to do that. And I think the best thing we can do is set the example and live it, and really show people that you don't need loads of money, you don't need people who are all technically minded engineers to do this. It just takes the will to do it, a sense of urgency and a sense of community to get it together. But, you know, I'm really disorganized, so I'm not good at organizing these things, so it's a mutual effort, isn't it?
But this is where community comes in, isn't it? You know, in community you find there's a whole range of skills anyway. And then suddenly you don't need to be great at organising. The only organising you really need to do is a bit of promotion to actually, you know, attract people into it. They come along, they find the community that's there. I mean, sadly, Carly and I couldn't make it today, but last time we got up to Ashton Allotments, the whole community side of it was fabulous. It was great to get to meet everybody. And
yeah, and then if each of us work to our strengths and do what we love to do, what we're passionate about, then we can only be on a winner. And also we've got to create the alternatives, and that means that we need food independence. We need total independence of the state. So once we get growing our own food, that's it, we're free, we stay healthy, we stay, you know, properly nourished, and the community grows around the growing of food.
Yeah, completely. That's the thing with the allotments that got me, is that the thing itself in allotments are rarity these days, isn't it? Like you go, we've got allotments near me that are all taken up, they're owned, you've got to be on a waiting list, and it's just so ridiculous that was once the pillar of a community, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, and they're also surrounded by these great big 12-foot fences with huge big gates and padlocks on them, and I mean, everything about them says keep the fuck out, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're not, you must agree, most of the traditional has been to keep people outside. It is kind of like a private group. I kind of disagree with that, and anyone knows that who's been up there to the site. The bridle path, we want to remain open, and it's still open. There is no fences around it. In fact, they're still arguing about paying for the fence. Who's going to pay for the fence? Because we all know fruit and vegetables will not grow without fencing. You can't. Well, come on, ridiculous. You can't have animals on it because they all flock onto the motorway on every full moon. That's why every single motorway gets shut down, once a month because of flocking animals. The reasoning behind them saying no to things, to me, is again preposterous. You don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to, you really don't. quite plain to see. I've got to agree with the independents. I think it is going to take us to come up with the solutions. I think people have got very complacent. I know I get complacent myself. I talk to a lot of people off air who are involved in chat shows and so forth and radio, and they all go through, well, let's best call it depression. You've got to, for a lot of the time, and I'm really fortunate that I really don't have to, and not any longer, but you've got to trawl through this media bull of murder, death, pain, a conspiracy, and you know it all, before you actually get to anything that would really make any difference in your life or anyone else's.
The glut of fear porn.
Yeah.
Do not underestimate the glut of fear porn.
Definitely, it's everywhere. So you hear people coming along, and I've said a few times about I was inspired by quite a few people, and I like to take the inspiration. I actually like to go with the inspiration. Many people have said to me, "Oh, I'll help you out," and then you don't turn up. It's not when they say they're going to help you out, and they mean it. They're not actually saying it to mess you up. So you turn up there in the middle of a field on your own with enough food to feed 30 people and enough tools to keep a small army going for a couple of days, and you're on your own. They don't do it to mess you up. The life happens. People have got good intention, and that inspires us. And if you are that one individual, then you're the one who made it. And after that, more come. So yeah, it's a tricky place to be in. Our world at the moment, it does appear to be full of problems and no solutions.
Yeah,
if we don't embrace change, then how are we going to solve it? We obviously haven't found the solution because we'd be doing it. Go on, is it Callie?
Yes, sorry, it's me jumping in and swearing all over the place. Yeah, I'm just agreeing with you, Paul. If we don't actually make the changes that are necessary, we're fucked as a species. The planet itself is being absolutely ripped apart, and every species that we share it with. So we've got to stop doing what we're doing. We've got to stop, and we've got to make better choices.
Oh, now I'm dangerous.
For us, we have to do it on an individual level.
Oh, I agree with the individual level, but I might be in a dangerous position here because I'm going to disagree with you on that. We're fucked, because I don't think we are. I really don't think we are. I think we're on a point of massive realisation and change. I've been aware of this over the last number of years. I'm seeing more and more people. I don't know, maybe it's the position I'm in now, but I doubt that. I'm seeing more and more people come from diverse walks of life, coming together with common cause.
Well, that's the hope, isn't it? That's what actually makes this all worth doing. That's what makes complacency not an option, because unless we're active in doing it, then other people aren't going to see what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? Exactly what you said. We encourage each other in it. And that's the hope. That is the hope. So what I'm saying is, unless we actually make the changes in our own lives actively, then we will be fucked.
Well, yeah, even if we create a utopia, and there's a utopia all around us, until we change the way that we are individually and the way that we live individually, we're just going to bring whatever utopia back to the same state that we're living in at the moment.
Yeah, it's time to start living in
I don't think the planet is in any danger. I honestly don't think
Well, I think life will survive.
I do actually know that there are men, women and children dying on this planet right now, actually starving in Africa, being macheted to death as we speak. In the Middle East, people are being persecuted and murdered. In the United States prison services, there are people who have been unjustly imprisoned who are being tortured. And by tortured, I mean taken away from their families. This is not only affecting the individual, but taking a parent away from the family tortures the family. So yeah, that's.
Well, you were talking earlier about if we just did away with all the armies and so on. In the 60s, there was supposedly a study done about this by a whole lot of top boffins, and a report was produced. Now it's now, if you search for it on the internet, it will tell you it was a hoax and it was a novel and it was never a serious report. But that was called The Report from Iron Mountain. And an awful lot of the oppression that we're suffering from at the moment is a direct consequence of the propaganda in that report. And that said that the thing to do was to turn mankind into the problem. So it's our use of carbon and our use of everything else that is the problem, and that the solution to it is exactly the solution the New World Order want, which is population reduced to 500 million people, and so on.
The agenda, when the report from Cold Mountain was actually written, it was that the agenda was how do we control the population of the planet beyond war. If we're not using war to control them, how else do we do it? And they came up with environmentalism.
And this is the thing, is it's always about control. It's all about control. And until we're responsible enough and grown up enough, and this is the problem, is that most people out there aren't grown up enough to look after their own lives. They need a health system. They need an everything else system, because they're not making intelligent enough choices to live a healthy and free life. That's what's got to change.
Did you want to get in there, Charlie? Thanks, Prajna.
Yeah.
Go on, man.
We try and rescue you all from this like negative pessimist hold of like things, and say that everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. Like we're only.
This is what I would say too, Charlie.
Yeah. Don't misunderstand.
Well, just hang on. Let Charlie finish. Let him finish.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. The good and the bad exist in perpetual balance, and like we can concentrate on the bad, or we can just amplify the good. And like it's very important, I think, to remain positive and believe that everything will be okay. And like for me, I think humanity will pull it together just at the last moment, just at the brink. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but every single generation has always thought it was the end, and there was World War I, World War II, there was the plague, there was all sorts of like invasions and imperialism. So it's just the ongoing vibration of fucking madness that we all just have to experience for our 75 years and do our very best and have a good time. That's all I wanted to say. Here's Stacey with her opinion.
I know I'll translate for Charlie, because you could. I know in a way, because you come across with it. Fucking, I get it. Like it's. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I kind of agree. I do, but at the same time, it's if we get too objective with it, because what information you've just given us, Kaz, is the information that it's part of what we need to know. It's like life in a sense is Alan Watts. It's a big fucking game. But if we get lost in that, we don't actually do what our grounding purpose is here, which is fulfilling a change. Well, you know what I'm saying? And it's both coming from different perspectives, isn't it? Again, it's all perspectives, isn't it? But I think what's important, and what you're getting at as well, is like we need to find a way to put it together now and do it as well, because we get lost in all different ways, don't we?
Yeah, I do agree with Charlie on one point, and that is that I've always said to people, listen, one thing I know for certain is, and that is that it has a happy ending. So if we're not all ecstatically happy yet, it hasn't ended.
Yeah, man, you get me. Get me.
I certainly think that's the case. At the same time, and also I understand where you're coming from in this balance. There has always been a balance between what we would call good and what we would call evil, and of course no movie would ever work if it didn't look like there was a remote chance that the bad guys were going to win. In fact, if it didn't look almost certain that the bad guys are going to win, and it's only at the last minute that things pull right. You only have the right idea of looking at archetypes, looking at the way things happen over big time span, and then putting that over the time span of a life, or seeing the way we get to the truth is we always find out what things have in common. This is what I actually got locked up in a psychiatric ward for, was writing a little expose of this, saying that science has got it all backwards, because science, what it does, it divides everything down into smaller and smaller pieces. And there was a guy called Miller who wrote a paper in about 1948 called, and anyone who studied NLP will have come across this. It was called the magic number 7 ± 2. And Miller studied consciousness in a number of, not just in human beings, but in a number of different mammals, and decided that consciousness has about 7 streams to it. You can keep track of about 7 things, but once you get 8 or 9, something has to drop off the end. And this is used in NLP and in hypnosis in order, to scoot things straight into the unconscious.
Well, the Catholic trinities are the same, aren't they, Prajna? The three.
Say again?
The Catholic trinities are used in exactly the same manner. Anyway, just let me jump in. We've been joined by another caller. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah. My name's Malek. I've just been sitting quietly listening to the whole conversation from when you guys started. I found it quite interesting when you said in regards to African nations and what Stacey said about everyone looking up to you guys as you guys are taking this movement. I mean, I kind of agree. These other nations are taking you guys as role models in this movement. I mean, you guys want to take a step into essentially creating a new paradigm. I think you used an analogy before. You said we're essentially the electricity and we're being the resistors. I mean, I'd think of it in a way that you could say we're the conductors, and it's quite easy to just step outside the grid yourself. I mean, you've got people here stepping out already in the UK with the Freeman movement and these kinds of things, and then when they see that these European countries are actually doing something, that will bring the other let's say more deprived nations into a new awareness. I mean, now with the internet coming together, connecting us all, what you said earlier about let's all have the internet as a human right, as they're trying to do in Germany, it kind of made me think, well, yeah, if they've got the internet and they're connecting and they're understanding what you guys are getting up to here and Europe and England and the rest of America and what have you, they'll be able to understand what the problems are here with you guys, and potentially you're not in full control. You're essentially being guided by corporations. You've got a say, but it's as in an essence an employee's say. Once you've declared yourself out of that and you're not playing that game anymore, you're essentially knocking their walls down. And
Malek, we have to bear in mind that this is not the first time. We get the idea that we're pioneering with all this Freeman stuff and so on. But I'm getting to be a bit of an old codger now, really. And in the 60s, the same thing was fought then. The same freedoms that people saw in the same way that they were being oppressed by the state. Before that, there've been many battles in history, and in India we had Gandhi, and in various other places we've always had people who have started to see early the kind of oppression, point out to people the kind of oppression that they're living under. And this is the most important role that we can do at the moment, is point out to people the obvious. This is something
absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, even here in the UK, I mean, it's quite nice to actually point out the obvious to these foreign countries that are being invaded. With the essence of using terrorism as the main threat. I mean, I'm actually from Libya originally. I've been living in the UK for the last 15 years, and before that in Canada for the last 4 years. One thing I've noticed when I was out there, the revolution started in a very strange way. I was watching Sky News and BBC and watching Al Jazeera and how they all portrayed it. And I actually walked out into the street in Tripoli. The things that were portrayed on the media wasn't as, as soon as you step out of your house and take a 15-minute stroll towards the centre, it wasn't all happening as it was being conveyed. Now, that got me questioning, what is the deal with all these invasions? And then I started to research it a bit further, and I've noticed that all these countries that they're going into are essentially not run by IMF. And that made me wonder, why are they going after these countries that are nationalistic in their, base? What is the threat? What do they have that's against these other countries that are essentially, taking orders from the World Bank? What's the problem? And you get to realize that they're just going out trying to make let's say a blueprint copy. into every place they can go. And then I started to research. My father was actually working as a pharmaceutical doctor in Libya. He was appointed in one of the manufacturing companies over there, and they were actually selling drugs to the World Health Organization. Now, one thing I found very strange was Gaddafi was doing a lot of work with the African countries, one of which I was told he was trying to create a African Union banking system, which was essentially having gold as their reserve currency and other commodities. So I started questioning my father, and my father had relations with other people working in intelligence at that time. And I said to him, what's the situation? Why is Sky News saying something completely different? What's actually going on? Why is Gaddafi's family, running around not knowing what to do and what have you? And it kind of opened up a new door of, what's actually going on, what Gaddafi's been up to, and what's, why he's becoming a threat. And you started to realize, actually, I think Saddam did the exact same thing. He didn't want to trade his resources in the dollars. He wanted to renounce on dollars and start using euros.
What happened with that, Malek, was that all of the aid, the oil for food program, was all being run on dollars, and Saddam turned around and said, "Well, hang on a moment. I think I'd like to switch this over to euros."
Absolutely.
And again, it's the same thing when you're challenging the bank. I've just been reading an appeal court case today, and what was interesting in there, because that was about contempt, and there is this. The worst thing that you can do, in fact, the reason that you get locked up anyway is for contempt of court. They tell you not to do something and you do it, or they tell you to do something and you don't do it. And you're not showing respect to these self-appointed authorities, and they will turn around and they'll whack you. And it's the same on the big scale and on the small scale, and you see it happening in families as well.
Absolutely.
This is what I was talking about earlier when I said when we start to see what things have in common, then we get closer to the truth.
Absolutely. And when I speak to these people, I've got friends from Iraq and obviously family in Libya, and I say to them, and they'll say, oh, it's up to the British or these guys who are coming in with the French and taking these orders. And they're questioning, what do we do in cases like this? I mean, they obviously want the same freedom as you guys have here in the UK. They want to be able to vote. They want to have democracy. They want to have, a stable system. And, when I spoke to some people, what are you guys doing about this? Some of them are actually taking legal action. Like they're stepping out. I mean, it's a different way, but you can see the similarities from what the Freeman people are doing with some of these activists. Who are actually from Middle Eastern countries. I think one of them was quite interesting. He didn't want to pay any of his taxes or council tax, and he claimed that under the ICC Act in 2001, I think it was something to do with genocide, crimes against humanity, and what have you. In one of the acts, it said it was an offence for England and Wales to engage in, I think it was called conduct ancillary. Now, this essentially meant that you're aiding or funding to, war crimes or, helping send money to these corporations on behalf because you're a national. So his excuse was, okay, I have dual nationality. I just simply choose not to pay any of my taxes because I know if I'm contributing to it, I'm essentially contradicting what I stand for.
Sure. This is the first thing that we've got to do. Anything that you've got the courage not to take part in that system, however it is you can do it, whether you stop banking or whether you stop paying your taxes or whether you jump your lecky meter or whatever it happens to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
All of these things, when we pull out of the system stops. And it's nice when I go around and meet people these days and we start talking about things and I say, yeah, but why are you paying for your electricity? Loads of my friends don't pay for electricity. They just bridge the meter,
Yeah.
And and so if you're going around saying things like this, then people start to think, why am I paying for electricity and why am I paying for
Absolutely,
tax?
yeah. I mean, we're kind of conditioned, from when we get to primary school up to high school and college and all the way up to university, that this is how things go. There's an order, you follow that order, and once you get out, you're pulling through, adding, contributing to the system. I mean, once you get the bigger picture, and then you're stepping back and thinking, right, so if I step out, will I be seen as a black sheep, or will I be standing for something? And people kind of need that community to kind of not want to be standing alone, I suppose, to kind of have that union. Now, with the internet, I suppose that's all coming together, these kind of talks, and you've got all these different kind of forums are happening where people are bringing ideas together and teaching each other essentially how to, not end up in prison or black sheep, as I said earlier.
Well, also don't forget
here,
that Charley. Yeah. Don't forget that Charley was also talking about balance. And at the same time that our consciousness is opening up like crazy and we're discovering all this truth about the world and so on, at the same time, the New World Order, the number of cops that are infiltrated into what we're doing, anything that we're doing, doesn't matter what it is, anything that starts to get attention will get infiltrated, and all this other stuff, because this is where the balance comes. And Charley needs to be aware of this as well. That balance will remain right until the end too, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if we see it from a bigger picture, I think the biggest conspiracy around the world that's common to everything is the conspiracy against self-knowledge as well. Because I think a lot of people, it's the distraction that we're taught through school to be extroverted. It's the fact that, like you were saying, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
Malek.
Malek, that's it, Malek. Sorry.
Malek.
Yes, Malek. As you were saying about how other nations look to us and they want the same sort of things that we have and the same sorts of freedoms, and yet a lot of people could say, well, be grateful for what we have because we moan about it, but we can say that it's illusory freedom. And like you were saying as well, I can't pronounce your name. Prajna, that's right. I didn't want to say it, but Prajna. Is that, we completely lost trail of thought there because of names.
So they essentially want to look up to you guys.
That's it. Yeah, but we pay for electricity and we pay for water, but I think it's because we're distracted so much by this so-called system from, consuming things, and we're programmed in that way. It's that we're distracted from the knowledge that's inherent that these things should be equal and free to everybody, and that we get tied up in the nitty-gritty of that. But essentially, that's all it boils down to, is that we are...
Can you imagine if nobody had to pay for their existential needs? If they didn't have to pay for food, shelter, clothing...
I would vote on that any day.
Any day. If that was so, who would go and build nuclear bombs? You wouldn't get anyone doing it. Why would they do it?
Exactly. It's a waste of resources.
People would be doing what they love, or they'd be doing nothing. And not enough people do absolutely nothing. Even those people are signing on are running backwards and forwards, doing all kinds of stuff as well. Yeah, people don't spend any time doing absolutely nothing. And
I totally agree.
They don't teach us about things that are important, like what food is good for your body and that kind of thing. Do they?
Exactly. I think actually there's a gentleman, what's his name? I think he was running a project called the Venus Project. I believe his name is Jack Fresco.
Sure.
This gentleman was essentially trying to put this idea forward, quite a while ago. I think he was on the King Larry show a long time ago, and he put this idea forward, and everyone's kind of looking at him like as a crack. You're essentially advocating communism. What are you talking about? You're telling us we can all have the essentials that we need. Who's going to pay for this? They've still got that capitalistic mentality.
Yeah, sure.
I want to do this. I want to do that. Yeah, exactly. And
Protestant upbringing.
And as soon as
Scottish friend suffers terribly.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. Look, it's great that you've got so much passion, but if you can, one of your commute when you with the audio, the listener won't be able to hear what's being said, and I want you to be heard. Yeah, that's why I'm stopping it. And also, I've got Dan here. I can't do that. Malekis, is it?
It's Malek. Yeah, just Malek.
Yeah. Okay, Malek, that makes it really easy. Brilliant to have you on, man. Thank you very much for joining us. But I've got Dan here, and he's been trying to get a word in edgeways.
I have been trying.
Go
all
on,
the time.
Go on.
Yeah. And so, hi guys. I was told introduce myself as Dan because that's who I am. I'm a separate entity from the commonly known as Bob here. And well, basically, I was going to ask a question out to the floor. Because I only found out about this last week, and when I heard this, it was like, of course, we had countless prophecies. 2012, the world's going to change. There's going to be a massive, whatever, fifth dimension or whatever is going to happen. We're all going to set off into the spiral vortex wormhole thing. And nothing. I don't know. Nothing. Well, I mean, loads of exciting stuff happened in 2012. But as far as a lot of us were aware, there wasn't wow, 2012, yeah, we have that. And what was it? And then, like, last week, I heard about the One People's Public Trust. So, is anyone here relatively up on this who's, like, properly spent, like, weeks or months researching this? You know,
yeah, well, this is what it's designed to do, is to take you weeks and months researching it. The same as it's taken people weeks and months to research all the rest of the arcane lore that they're all poking their noses into, and they're spending all their time with their noses buried in lore books, and none of it living. And this same one again has not been proven in court anywhere. It's a big theory. They've done some legal research and sent some notices off, and they want to get everybody getting all excited about the fact that they might be able to overthrow the whole system using the same kind of paper that the system's been using for years to keep them all entrapped. Do you know, people forget they're dealing with a corrupt and lawless system, and it doesn't matter what little get out of jail free cards you've got and what clever little legal tricks you come up with. You're dealing with a bunch of fucking mafia, and these people will do whatever it takes to exercise their will and to make sure that their will is done and not your will is done. So what can challenge that? All that can challenge that is to bring all of that into the light so that everybody sees them for exactly what they are. And when people see them for what they are, then people will say, that's it, that's enough. We're not going to be controlled like that. And this is the kind of stand that needs to be taken, and not just one of sending a whole lot of legal paperwork and trying to outmaneuver them on a chessboard. You will not do it.
I totally agree. I think it's quite right.
Just stick their axe in the middle of the chessboard.
Thanks, guys. Prajna, thanks, bro. And there's a lot of passion. I wanted to carry on, but one at a time. Malek, if you would, please. Mute your microphone for us if you can. We do it. No, not you, Malek. I want you to talk next, mate, if you would. But we do it. We're sat here going, yeah, right. And on the other side of it, when the listener hears it, it's cutting out the main speaker a lot of the time. And we don't want that to happen. I know it's going to happen, but hey, Malek, if you would, please.
Yeah, okay. I kind of agree. It's essential we're dealing with a kind of mafia architect. You know, we're going in as the little man trying to, fight the system. I think you've got to pay attention to what's not being showed on the media. These are kind of, I guess, the clues that are telling you you're doing something right. If someone's, getting angry at the courts, or some type of information is not being shed into, the media. For example, what happened in Iceland, it was a massive peaceful revolution. They kicked out the bankers. They restructured everything, and I didn't really catch any of that on Sky News or BBC. I mean, there was some, glimpses on the internet, talking about it more than what I saw on the mainstream. I think things like this, where you see are not being shown into light, are telling us that that's the direction we need to be pushing for.
Right, brilliant, man. Absolutely wonderful. Where did you come from? Absolutely brilliant stuff. Stacey or Charley?
No, I completely agree with that. That it's something we just don't get shown the full story. I think what this is, I see it holistically, that as a process of the human race, it is like you were saying, Prajna, that it's sort of everything has to be brought to light. It has to be made conscious. And it's our collective consciousness, or unconscious, that we've had for so long that we've just neglected and let pile up. And the more examples of this that we're seeing through people like ourselves popping up through all walks of life and all throughout the world, doing their own thing for their own reasons, through the same mutual frustration that a lot of people are feeling. And it is sort of like an autoimmune response to, you know, if we were a body, to things that are obviously lies that we need to fix. And I think it's a matter, like you said, of just informing people as much as we can, mainly on a personal level, because I found that a lot of the time, if we try too much over the internet, there's so much miscommunication. A lot of people have their own prejudice and their own preconceived view of the world anyway. So when you're pumping out stuff on the internet and there's somebody sat there getting irate behind a keyboard, it's always better to do it like on a real level and try and talk to as many people as you can really about it. But again, it's difficult to get people to take you seriously in the climate of like X Factor and freaking, you know, all sorts of things. But I suppose that the media at the moment, I must say, I don't follow it much, but it seems to be obviously they're diving around the issue that there's so many paedophiles that have gone, you know, quotation marks, unnoticed, like Jimmy Savile and whatnot, and it's being swept under the carpet in a sense there, but they are highlighting it, and it is as if it's coming closer and closer. Something feels like it's got to give soon. It's saturated in the collective consciousness.
Brilliant. Go on, Tom. Go on.
Yeah.
Well, Susan.
Yes. It's Susan.
Yeah, they're all having a go.
Susan,
Charley, we miss Charley out.
Oh, Charley.
Excuse me.
Yeah, hello.
Go on, Charley. We miss you out, mate. Excuse me. How did we manage to do that?
What was the question?
No, there was no question.
Oh, reset the question.
Right. Well, have you looked into the One People's Public Trust yet, Charles?
Yeah, I didn't even answer the question. Sorry.
Have you had a look at their what's it called, their document and what's it called?
Yeah, they basically took claim to the entire Earth and then give it back to everybody.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Well, good luck to them.
Brilliant comment.
So, like, so for anyone who's listening who hasn't heard anything about this yet, I'm new to it myself, so I could well come out with some totally incorrect mumbo jumbo right now. But basically, as I understand it, this document claimed it came about last year. The main lady who's put this together. She's an American lady called Heather something or other, and she was an ex-lawyer who got foreclosed on, and she was an expert in this what's called the Universal Commercial Code, and it's a form of law that only a few select corporate lawyers who need to know about it know of, and this supposedly governs international commercial law, and as a result of that, everything essentially sort of thing. Like most law is connected to or stems from or is you know, like controlled by this or related to this somehow. And so they claim that they've read around it and that they've constructed a law that has a better claim than the currently existing one. Hence, it kind of supersedes it and it's going to come into being law. And so she's so as a result, this is claimed to basically erase debt. It gets rid of all of the. It should bring us into common law. It should bring this on, and it should that's the intent of it. That's what they're claiming it should lead to.
And how are they going to do this with the Admiralty course, if you don't mind me interrupting?
One second. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but we did actually have Mel V on with Dom, and she mentioned it on Dom's Show a week before last, I think it was. And then with myself, we touched on it a little bit. And basically, by possessing and then releasing, they all work on possession. I don't know if you've all noticed that. We seem to be living in this possessed consciousness. Everything we've got, this my house, my family, my home, my job, it seems to be endemic. So really, by using the ideology of possessing all of it and then freeing it, nobody's done it. When you hear it, it is a bit, whoa. Personally, I don't think we can win in their church. The court is obviously a church. I'm aware.
I think it's a great scheme.
1 second.
Bob,
one second, one at once. I'm aware of Universal Commercial Code. And if you're not aware of Universal Commercial Code, have a look at it, because it is there. Whether you think it's used or not is irrelevant. Have a look at it, because Universal Code is there. It's been there for a long time, and it is pretty much what it says it is. It's a universal way of trade. Now, I don't know why they call it universal. I'm not going to go down to into the 9-foot blue aliens. I'm not going there. But why did they call it Universal Commercial Code? It is the code of the trader.
Or you could essentially argue, why did they call the Bank of America Federal? There's nothing federal about it. It's just a name that is giving out to the public, which kind of, in your eyes will just give you a sense of authority.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that at all, man. You've got to take it back his own authority and quite with it. Susan, I'm just trying to pass it round if I can, guys, and then we'll get right back to you. Susan, have you got anything to add? Maybe not. Robo?
I've got not much to add. I just feel really great after that digging and that lot. It looked fantastic when we left, and I feel a lot better. I work a lot around electronics, computers and stuff, and it was just really nice to just put a spade in the ground and turn it over. I'm doing it again.
Good on you.
Yeah, that's great. I found the mic. I couldn't
Bob?
speak.
Oh, yes, go on, Susan.
Right. Yeah, it's been really good listening to you. So many different versions of or perceptions of what the world is and how we expect to be interacted with and how we wish to interact with the world. And the Ashton Allotment, that basic interaction with the soil, with yourself, with your body, with your mind, it's really, really important. And I just like to say, great, it's fantastic that there's so many active members getting involved, who want to see common land for all, who want to see this utopia that we all know is there. It just needs to be projected and implemented. And I just like to say it's fantastic. Thanks, guys, and thank you to all you new people coming in. And Malek, hi to you.
Hi there, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Darkcity Radio. It's this venue is for all of us to come together, share our opinions, and to if possible, implement some solutions. So, that's my little rant, and thank you.
Bob, Earthwise, do you want to...
Yeah, I'll say a few words. It's really good that bit by bit we're getting a much broader perspective on a whole bunch of subjects, which gives us a more holistic view on how the world really is, and rather than concentrating on single parts of it, we can begin to see how it all dovetails together. And with all of us doing all of this, it makes us much bigger and stronger. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Prajna, we're back round again, guys. Go away. I'd just like to, again, not everybody kind of is a lot of them sit back, so I'd just like to give them a chance to have their bit of a say. Please, continue.
I'm lying down a bit so that I'm not quite as passionate as I was before. I know that Carly's got a question if she's still got hold of it. What's your question?
The question is, given that the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Persons hasn't made the blindest bit of difference in Brazil, where they're about to flood large parts of the Amazon rainforest, why do we think that use of the Universal Commercial Code will actually make any difference to us? They have a different set of rules for us.
And this was my point precisely, that people forget who they're dealing with. They're dealing with families that have used the most bloodthirsty fucking methods throughout the whole of their history, and that have perpetrated some of the most atrocious hoaxes and things on the whole of humanity so many times in their history. These are the people we're dealing with, and they have a plan, and things are going to go according to their plan unless people wake up. It's as simple as that. And what people have to do, they've just got to stop. They've got to stop being part of that system. Absolutely got to stop.
Absolutely.
In a small way that you can, and build on that. You know?
And people have got to learn not to have courage, but to be fearless. And the only way to learn to be fearless is to face your fears. Whatever it is your fear, get out there and face it. And eventually you'll become fearless. And when you're fearless, you're absolutely invulnerable.
I agree. I think a very good point made about becoming fearless. I think it takes a step, to be honest. From when I was growing up, I always found, police very intimidating or scary. If I, found one stopping me, I'd automatically think, oh, good Lord, what's going to happen to me? I better do as I'm told. I don't want to, go back home and let mum know that, oh, the policeman talked to me, I made this statement and what have you. You kind of have, that feeling of, God, I don't know what I'm doing. These guys are throwing all these words at me. I don't know what he's talking about. Essentially, we're not educated in what's going on. We're so busy living our lives, as Stacey said, watching our TV, enjoying our daily lives. If you're indoors researching, doing what have you, you're seen as the kook, or what are you doing? Go out, enjoy your life. Why are you looking into all these things? I think the thing with the human rights bill, even using the word indigenous with what's going on in Brazil, I believe the gentleman, I think his name is Dean Clifford, he mentioned something about using the word itself, indigenous. He broke it down with using 3 other words, it's essentially saying you're not original, indigenous. You're not, it's like saying, something is possible or something is impossible. It's kind of being put into that category. These people are seen as not origins, or I suppose in legalese words. Once you step into the courts, like some of these words mean completely different things. So they're grabbing these guys. But these poor fellas don't know what's going on. Yeah.
There's one thing that you can do, and that is to define words the way that makes sense to you, and explain to people, if this is not the word that you mean, tell me the word that means this, because this is what indigenous means to me. Anyone who is stateless is indigenous to the planet.
Yeah.
And any of us must be able to step outside the state. The same as when you join the Boy Scouts, you have to follow all the rules of the Boy Scouts.
Absolutely.
But when you leave the Boy Scouts, you don't have to leave the country. You just resign from the Boy Scouts. Absolutely. And likewise here, you become indigenous simply by saying, I resign from this insane society. I've seen its insanity. It's nothing to do with me. When you guys get better and stop drinking all your alcohol and watching all your television, and when you wake up a bit, then I might be interested in your society. But at the moment, I'm not. And therefore, you can't be anything else but indigenous.
And I mean, I agree. I absolutely agree.
This bit of soil or another bit of soil, you're still indigenous to the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you're right. So you have to, put across what these words mean to you, so that people are kind of on the same level as you. You've got to let them know on what level you're meaning with these definitions or words. I mean, as soon as you're, like I said earlier, as soon as you're entering the courts, these legalese are completely different. These folks that are being grabbed and, being told essentially what they've stepped into and what have you, they don't know how to play the game. They've never, been in the game.
Sure.
Even people who are claiming their sovereignty are.
Practice.
Exactly,
Get a chance to.
Absolutely. One of my. Go on, I cut you off. Sorry.
They can practice the things like White Rabbit, which they'll find on a Skype group.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a group called White Rabbit, and they get together and they do little mock court scenes and so on, and you can actually get involved and you can see what happens. The other thing is, go along and support all your friends. Come on, we're getting busted all the time. And anyone's welcome to come along and learn the ropes and see what you can do and what you can't do, and so on in the court. I've got a court case coming up next month.
20th.
Yeah, 20th of next month, I think.
Good luck with 25th. Wish you all the best.
And yeah, people are welcome to come along and just see what you can do and what you can't do. I always wear a hat in court, and that's usually interesting. And then we have a discussion about names. And
I fully intend to go in and declare my contempt before anything else said or done, so that's there and on the record. Yeah. I have contempt for this court and these proceedings.
Do you know, I don't believe there is a judge in this whole country who has sufficient powers of sentencing to address the level of contempt that I have for the whole fucking
Essentially, system. It's all down to the high courts, to be honest. I mean, the Crown Courts and Magistrates Courts are all there, being employed by different agencies depending on what the case is. You're entering in. They're essentially renting the place out, to be honest. It's like, a tenant going in and saying, right, who's, which tenant are you going to tell off today then? They're renting the place and, putting their own laws in, right, we're going to need it for this case today or for that case. I mean, it's a big game, People are always going to end up taking judicial reviews. You all have to take it through the whole game. They're essentially hoping you give up. What's the point? We're threatening you with fees. Just leave it out. Stay out. You've got to stay there and buck and buck and buck. Once it gets through, that's, where you're essentially making the people think, well, hold on. Someone's made it. I don't believe it. He actually won. You're kind of making people awe in a sense, cases in America where they've made it through. I believe there's a gentleman in North Carolina in America. He managed to make it through with his case, and who's essentially his argument was we're allowed to govern ourselves, and he made it through. I mean, his case was dismissed. They were saying the traffic offences were void, but the courts were having problems with claiming what jurisdiction they had over him. As soon as you start not giving up, where they're seeing your persistence or they're seeing your ability to, keep hanging on and keep fighting with all these threats and what have you still thrown on you, that's when they start, kicking off, or what you're doing, you're not going to get far. As soon as you see these signs, you're onto something,
Sure.
Not many people have the willpower to kind of go across the whole way, I suppose. But there's many examples in America who have done it. And, there's no reason why here in the UK, we've got the exact same system. People are just not bothering. They've got too many things to risk. We're too busy in our lives. We've got families to feed. We've got mortgage to pay. We've got, no one's going to bother. It's going to come down from the people who have had enough and have got nothing to lose.
Malek, we gave up everything before we started on this. Yeah, and we've lost everything 2 or 3 times. Since. And this is why we are in a position to carry on all the way to the bitter end. Because we knew right from the beginning that anything that we hold on to is something that they can use to control us with.
Fantastic. And I'd love to be able to support you. I mean, I'm down here in the southeast in Brighton. I don't know where you guys are, but if it's not too far,
we might be down to one of these things.
Yeah, we're on the road.
Yeah, we're just about right back on the road again. We've got caravan. Yeah,
with that inches away.
Yeah. We've got running water in it today.
Fantastic. All the best, guys. I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
So you're essentially almost, kind of off grid. You're saying you've got your own running water and what have you. You're in a caravan. Have you pretty much, decided you're off grid, or what's the situation?
No. We want to be back on the road again, and we're going to go off to Wales and visit a friend in Wales, and then we've got friends all around the country.
Oh, I do want to get some gardens going in Wales, baby.
Very lovely.
Yeah, brilliant to hear all that passion for and all the different ideas, the different perspectives. I for my mind, it was about, and I've said this before, about just letting the pieces assemble themselves. And sometimes you need to take a few of the burrs off, I suppose, knock a few of the rough edges off. I know I've had to have a few of mine knocked off in my time. I still don't think that we need to have destruction to learn. The mention of the Universal Commercial Code, if we could educate people about Universal Commercial Code, it would stop any soldier ever walking into any war ever again. Most of us don't realise that code is set up. Take Germany and England, Second World War, Japan and America. The trade carried on. They carried on. It didn't make any difference. They carried on. With bodies, we're fighting. Many of those people in service, and for all them that have passed before us, we are at a point. I see that we are in a point where we can become that change. In fact, no. Let me correct myself. Where I can be the change.
That's right, because you are the change. You are the change. I am the change. That's the only way it's going to happen. I am the change. Yep.
We have a quiet moment. No one wants to jump in.
Well, okay, then I'll jump in.
Oh, go on.
Go for it, Susan. Go for it, Susan.
Thank
girls, you. Don't start fighting, girls. We can't have you girls fighting. We've only just got you here.
We didn't. See, this is the thing. This is how women resolve that. We didn't fight, Susan. So there we go.
That's right.
Take the floor.
And I'd also, if I may, for the listeners who unfortunately aren't in this chat room and aren't able to share with people who are actually on the air listening, talking to you now, we have Paul Hayden, Bob Earthwise, wonderful people, Prajna and his other partner, and Malek. Pardon?
Kali.
And I am Ty, and we are joined today also with Charley, Veitch and Stacey. So I'd like to welcome you all here, and thank you to you, the listener, for listening to us. It's wonderful. But speaking about war, that's right, because there's also the hidden agenda. There's two programs running. One, that is us. I am the change, you are the change. Two, the other program that isn't illuminated, it's in the dark, it's just quietly ticking away. Like, when we do have wars, the ammunition trade still goes on, the human trade still goes on and is still going on, human trade. So, also you have the families that are affected by these wars, and how it's the elite of our human community that is taken, stripped, taken to war, trained, and excuse the word, but it's a total mindfest. It's and it works. So that second program, and for me, I had to see that I have two programs running. I didn't like seeing it, but we all have this other program that they tap into. It's there. But, we are the change. I'm the change, the energy. So, to all the families who have been affected by these decisions of war that is just implemented through the corporate government, I know that, that nobody can deny that any longer. So we are the change. And thank you to all who are listening. And thank you to you wonderful people who have come on to Darkcity Radio.
Hey, Stacey. Come on, I thought you were going to, both of you were going to bat it around for ages then.
No. My point was related to stuff we were talking about earlier with the, you were talking about having, the more attachments we sort of have, it's easier for us to be manipulated, which is completely true. And the best way to become free, obviously, is to therefore become, self-sufficient. But, having children is obviously the biggest way that they grab you by the balls. Because we all need our basic essentials to survive, and we're in an age where it can easily be provided, and it should be provided, and has been denied just because of the same persisting mentality in people in power. But it's a difficult one, because all that we can really do now, not all we can do actually, is try and, as I was saying, do things practically in the community or building the community, but also raising our kids to see these things as well and instilling it in them. But, you know, there's always that danger, because this is the weird thing of how things work. If you push things too hard on people, that they can actually go the other way. You know, so it's you've got to be gentle in the way that we raise these things.
Well, yeah. And I was told not to practice on my friends or my relatives. So, yeah, definitely. But, you know, today, Stacey, with you guys bringing your family to Ashton Allotment and sharing in the goodness, you know, sharing in what was there was just a hill, you know, that had been put up in the dark. And now, you know, that's been illuminated and people are coming together for, it's not even a common cause, for just the right, the right to be there. It is our birthright. And so, you know, there's so much, and your body touching the soil, you know, the chemical interaction between you and the soil, you know, that is very important. And I had a wonderful speaker discussing permafusion, and I know a little bit about the chemicals that are released to the soil that allow the soil to blossom. And so, yeah. Stacey?
Yeah, symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, everything we interact with has, everything we interact with, it changes in some way yourself and whatever you're interacting with, doesn't it? That's the thing, is that we're not separate technically from anything in that sense. And it is just a change in worldview that we need completely. And the frustrating thing is, as been the case with so many people, from like Jesus to Buddha to, you know, every religious figure that is now worshipped in all the wrong ways. You know,
Stacey, did you know God is in the building? Did you know God is in the building? Did you know that?
In which building? My building?
This
building.
Every
building. Yeah, in the internet as well.
No, he did. He walked in the door.
Yeah,
Really?
Stacey and Charley may not know, but we call Dan God because of Linux.
Oh, I see. Good intro.
So yeah, his nickname amongst us is, we'll have to ask God. We just
small G.
But I tell you what, the good thing about our God is you can actually get him by email. He does respond, which I do like from my God. I do actually like a God that you can get an answer from. And you don't have to deal through a middleman, which is Andy. Andy actually knows about base programming. The gods that we seem to have encountered before have got absolutely no idea about the base program. They really haven't. They seem to live in an hierarchical world where they compete against one another for position and space. And the funniest bit of all, hierarchy, they actually think that there are people above them and below them, and that they have some authority over others from some position that they believe that they've acquired through a leap of faith. So yeah, I live in a completely different universe. It's separate from their universe, and I'm just here encountering it for a period of time. I must say, I do love the diversity of their pure ignorance. How many times they try to repeat the same thing over and over again on a different stage with different actors, of course, yet the same outcome, the same ends. So yeah, a wonderful experience I'm having in this integration. It's the best thing I can call it. When I first came across the truth movement, or whatever you want to band it all together as, I was a bit perplexed. I seem to find many different groups all creating unity through division. I'm like, can this be possible? Have they got a point? Can you actually create unity through division? Because we've obviously been divided over and over again, and we resist this. Our communities come together in groups, and I mean, just look at the shamanic tribes of Earth. Every one of them has been hunted down almost to extinction, if they are not already. Can unity be created through division? Give it a go. Let's run down that rabbit hole for a while. So I have become divided. I am conquered. I am a singular now, defeated. I am one individual. I have no army or no family or no friends or nothing. I am divided completely. Now I enter the world of a self-empowered individual. No longer am I governed by that once governed me. It's a rabbit hole that many fear to tread. But it's only fear, of course. I'm only speaking of something hypothetically. Of course, I'm not really from another planet or dimension. I'm sharing this experience with all of you. I once heard you say it, Charley, and it stuck with me, inspired me. You're playing the leading role in this movie that we call life. You're always playing a leading role. I can't see. And that inspired me. It did. Not to be scared of the thoughts that come into my mind. Not to be intimidated by those that think they have authority, because they only truly have if I've already surrendered it. I must surrender it first. So to take back that is not to go out really and seize land, as I have done with my friends here and my colleagues in Manchester. It's not to go demonstrate on the street. I've been there as well. I must admit, I do enjoy going up the megaphone, taking the mick out of people and having a laugh. That seems to be some kind of powerful medicine. But it really isn't. It really isn't about any of that. It's about us, your life here. Each one of us is a unique representation. That's who we are. Of what? Who knows? Who knows? Praise to be, I suppose, in one sense, that I am not going to spend the rest of my life wondering and contemplating what it might be or who it might be. I'm here. I'm here. And thanks to everybody else, really, for making this experience one that has been pretty much a nightmare. Even the good points, even the bits that I thought were absolutely wonderful, now when I look back on them, was an illusion created by myself because I could not bear the delusion I was living in. So it gives me compassion for those people that are enslaved by their own deed, by their own hand, because they've been helped by others who were enslaved and others who've been enslaved. I would like to see that the swarm effect, that there's enough of us and then, yes, we all move into utopia. But I have to agree with the girls, really, with the women who spoke. You can't drag them kicking and screaming. You can't say it's about choice, do it now. We have to allow people to do it in their way. Let them write their own story in their adventure of life here. It is such a short span of time, but you can fill it. You can fill it with adventures. You can fill it full of all sorts of things. You really can. It's your life. It's my life. And at the end of the day, there's no one stopping us. There really is no one stopping us. Now, I know it looks like there could be all sorts of things. Oh, well, I can't. No. At the end of the day, you put your mind to it, you will be successful. Especially if you're being creative. But a little bit of warning. Those people that tend to be creative often get outcast. Because most people don't want you to come up with a solution. Most people are quite happy the way that it is. I think they haven't seen it. I can't be happy the way that it is. Doesn't stop me appreciating where I am and who I am. So yeah, we've got about 10 minutes left.
Right, thank you.
That was very good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so that brings you all around to change. You know, what is the change and contracts, and what does it mean to understand? You know, what is the contract that you are signing up to? Who are you signing up to? So, you know, it brings you back to the middleman as well. And Paul, you rightly touched on quite a few changes that I'm going through. So I am the change, and the illusion, you know, what is it I want to change into, or, you know, the inside, outside, and so understanding the contract. So we are fortunate that, you know, we have all come together, and a venue, excuse me, the birds want to speak as well, a venue where we can bring the change. I am the change. So thank you. Over and out. End of message.
Nice to hear the glass.
Go on, Bob.
I said it was nice to hear the galahs. That was quite amazing, really. They agreed with everything you were saying, Susan.
So that brings you into, the interaction between what is the reality, what is the change. I have been in denial of how much I interact with my environment. And when I do connect, it's like, and hearing that a few of the active members of what it is to be the change did gather at Ashton Allotment and did bring the change, and that it was just a matter of being there, touching the soil, connecting. Hi, how are you? Cup of tea. I don't know if there's a tea lady present, but yeah. And,
well, the good thing about the soil is that there's a bacteria in it, and when you dig over the soil, turn it over, the bacteria comes out into the air and you breathe it in, and it triggers a serotonin release in your brain.
Yes.
It makes you feel good. And that is one key thing that the powers that were have tried to separate us from. They've made it all mechanical so that very few people get into a position where they can get this well-being from growing their own food.
That's quite an interesting point, actually. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Sebi, Bob. He's a gentleman who was talking about similar things. If you actually start walking around the environment with your feet off and you're actually touching the grounds, he was talking about how your body's biochemistry interacts with the soil itself, and the pH of the water that you're around actually interacts with your own body's water. And
what do you know of water and memory? Excuse me.
Yeah, there is actually. Yeah, there's a thing with water and memory. Absolutely, I understand what you're saying, Susan. I think there was a Japanese scientist who was looking into water memory a lot more. Emoto, that's the one. Very interesting work he's done. But just going back slightly to Dr. Sebi, this man was quite incredible. He managed to get biopsies of patients who have got diseases like AIDS, cancer, and blindness, which was one of the most interesting I've ever seen. He was using water and certain herbs and just essentially plants. These plants, you digest them. They're
essential bacteria.
Exactly, and he was talking about these amino acids or different kinds of foods that are, I think, what he calls electric foods. Now, these electric foods are kind of like are charged to us. This is the charge for our body, And he was describing how these African tribesmen or Tuaregs and all these people are living without hospitals and what have you. And he's saying, what about these people? They're living up to 100 years old. These guys are dying in their sleep. Why are we living in cities in, better accommodation, better lifestyle? Why are we not living up to 100 years old and dying in our sleep? What's the difference here? What's going on, And it's really strange how he says, these guys are drinking water that's, pH of between 7 to 9 and higher. We're drinking essentially tap water. If you have a look at the pH of the water we're drinking, it's completely different. As soon as your body reaches a certain pH, that's when it's becoming vulnerable to dis-ease. That's where things start, growing out. So you get tumors, you get cancers.
True, but the change is within, isn't it? It's the change in the mind that rests the body, that heals the body.
I agree. I think there is. I forgot who the guy's name is. Someone was talking about how emotions can also cause certain triggers into the body. Any kind of distress kind of also aids in certain diseases as well. But
another guy on that subject is
me. I've spoken on that on quite a few occasions. I don't know who the man you were speaking of is, but yeah, I've got to concur with you. Ill ease, disease. It manifests into the body as disease without any doubt at all. So yeah, right on, man. Brilliant input. And I must commend you on remembering that man's name who did the ice crystals, although that information stuck with me and still does. And being at least 68% water and realising that my physical body could be programmed with words was fundamental to my path, my journey. Really was. But I
stand to be corrected, Dr. Emoto.
Is that him?
Yeah, it is. That's
right. Well, thank you all for remembering his name, because that's a name that needs to be passed around, because that information is still mind-blowing to most people when you actually tell them that the crystals in water, when frozen, change in structure, depending on who you talk to them. I mean,
so we have God in the building and Jesus as well. So hi, Jesus. Thanks for coming in. Multitasking would be appreciated.
Right. Did I miss Jesus?
Yes.
Okay, then. He's quick, isn't he? I didn't even see him come in the room. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That was about that. It was about 5 minutes. I don't know if you all want to run over, and you can do. You're quite welcome to. I mean, like I say, I've said many times before, it's your radio, and you can do what you want with it. We could take a break at the hour, put a couple of tunes on if you want to grab a cup of tea, or go and powder your nose, or whatever it is you need to do. And yeah, you're welcome to continue. As they say, let it roll.
I was going to say thanks for that. I think that's a great idea, Bob, because I'm calling you Bob because he's screen name. Because Charlie's just been falling asleep on the couch because he's an old git, and I've had to make cups of tea running around. But I wanted to comment for Charlie because he said this before. He mentioned, you know, what's his name, Emoto. His name is, isn't it? I can't pronounce his first name, but isn't it funny how his name Emoto also reflects the nature of the work that he does? You know what I mean?
Measuring Emoto.
Yeah, isn't that insane that that's like a reflection in the Matrix? I don't know what you'd describe it as, but just good observation there to wrap it up with.
He's an agent.
Just to wrap it up with there. Anyway, but yeah, whatever tunes, and then we all come back refreshed, ready to talk more.
And thank you for listening to Dark City Radio. It's great. So we've joined here today with Paul, Bob, Prajna, Malek, I am Ty, Stacey, and Charley, and myself, Susan, and we're going to continue and have a few tunes. Thank you for listening to Dark City.